fresh, a new mother cries. Who listened to the fall, to the floor?
Hello. Welcome back to another pen talk. This is a case that I carry around. I've taken it to the pen shows that I go to, and I try to fill it with some pens which would be interesting for people to try, pens that they may have been interested in and have never had a chance to write with them. And I think it's important that you write with pens. And also, I wanted to look at various nibs from the three primary Japanese pen producers. We have three platinums here, all centuries. We have two pilots here, 74 and a 91. And we have some sailors, mostly two 1911 standards. One Pro Gear Slim or Sapporo, I think these may be Sapporos too, and one standard Pro Gear. So all of these have different nibs in them, and we're going to take a look at these nibs in relationship to one another, and also take a little bit view of the different things that these pens kind of share in common, but also are different. So the three sailors, the one on the left, which is black, is an older one, probably from the 90s. One thing you'll notice are very similar with the bands that they have at the end of the cap. The clips here are a little different because you have that ball clip on the 74, and I never really noticed it before, but the 91 almost could look like a pelican clip if you put some more details into it. And the sailor clips are standard sailor clips. None of these are the newer Type 2 ones that they've come out with. So we're going to dig down a little bit deeper into these, and hopefully you'll find it interesting to see how they write. I have done the Century pens already, but now I'm going to do them in comparison to the others. So we're going to start with this one, primarily because of the nib that it has in it. This is the Burgoyne Century. As you can see, it's translucent materials. The nib comes through, especially with the way the sun hits it. You can see the converter inside the barrel. I'm not going to go into details on the pen. I've done that in a separate review. And this is the one that focuses on the different nibs that I have in these pens. So this is an Ultra Extra Fine, a UEF. I wanted this nib because a lot of people really like these kind of needlepoint nibs. Not necessarily my nib of choice, but I wanted to try them, and I like the varieties of pens, and also some people like these, so I wanted to have these pens available for them. And this is a super fine nib. You know, it does have a little bit of that, you feel the paper. There's definitely feedback from this nib. There's no question about that. It's actually a little soft. I wouldn't call it a nail. So that makes the writing experience a little bit more interesting. But if you wanted to do, you know, like accounting work with it, it certainly would work for that. So this ink is Diamine Monaco Red. I got a small, like 15 milliliter bottle of it. I think it's a nice red. I'm not going to, you know, bring the red back once the bottle is empty. So let's move on to another one of the platinums. This is the chartreuse one. And as you can see, it's the transparency is about the same as it is in the Burgoyne. They're both excellent colors. I mean, they did a beautiful job on this pen, and considering it's under $80 on Amazon, it's definitely a buy with a gold nib, and a very nice gold nib. So this is just extra fine, EF. There's a little bit more tipping material on it. And all these pens are going to have the same feed and other things along with it. And this one I put in an ink that I've been enamored with lately, which is Noodler's Legal Lapis, only from Pandemonium. Great flow, permanent ink, really sticks to the paper. I accidentally spilled some water on some writing that I was doing, and absolutely no impact whatsoever. So I enjoy this nib a lot more than the Ultra Extra Fine. There's certainly a significantly less feedback. The nib is slightly softer, so that's a nice feature. As you can see, that ink dries really, really fast because this lays down, it's a pretty dark line. You know, you can hear it on the paper, but you don't feel it in the hand. So I would say that I prefer this one over the Ultra Extra Fine. And you can see there is a significant difference in the line that you're going to get between these two nibs. So this is another Burgoyne one. This one has a soft fine nib in it. So we've had ultra extra fine, and as we're trying to get it to focus, this is soft fine. It's nice that Platinum puts that designation on the nib, so it's very easy to know what this nib is by just looking at it. And as you can see, the tipping material is maybe a slightly more than the extra fine and certainly more than the ultra extra fine. But I enjoy soft nibs, and that's what attracted me to this one. And I'd say overall, I like the extra fine nib. It's smoother. This one gives more feedback, almost similar to the feedback that you would get from the ultra extra fine. And it really isn't that much softer than the extra fine. I mean, it's slightly there, but certainly I would not call this a soft nib by any stretch. And I think when I did my original review, I discussed that. Yeah, it's a little bit that you see that the difference is basically because this ink is wetter. And this is Schaefer Red, another ink that I haven't really used much, but it is a nice red ink. So we'll look at these lines. And the soft fine is slightly thicker line than the extra fine. But as you can see, it doesn't really spread any more than the extra fine does, and, you know, in relationship to the original line. So that's the Platinums. So we're going to continue on into the Pilots. So we're going to start with the Custom 91. When I did the review of this pen, I called it the perfect pen, and nothing has really changed that in my perspective. Balance, weight, feel, the whole bit. But to me, what really makes this is the nib. And this is the Pilot Soft Medium, or SM nib. And again, as you can see, they do a good job, very similar to Platinum in labeling the nib so you know what it is. And this is definitely a medium. You can tell the extra tipping material that's on this nib. But when we put it to paper, I think if memory serves me right, you'll see a much different response. I mean, this is super smooth, and this is a soft nib. I mean, it just really glides across the paper. And as you can see, there's a decent amount of line variation in there. And it lays down much more ink than the Platinums did. But I think the Pilots are known for a little bit of a wetter flow. And this is Shizuku Murasaki, which is an ink that I've always had in this pen. I haven't used a different ink. It just feels so good to write with. And that's why I called this the perfect pen. With this nib in it, I would put this against any other pen that I have. I'll do a little close-up of it, and you can definitely see this is a medium nib, probably even medium in a Western style more than you would see. And you can see it's a decent amount of line variation, and that's not with applying much pressure. Continuing on with Pilots, we're going to go into a 74. And primarily a 74 than 91. I've shown in my video that pens are interchangeable. You can take the cap off with this, put on the other one, sections and barrels and everything else. This is a more classic design, you know, the cigar shape. You know, Sailor does that same thing where the 1911s are cigar shaped and the Pro Gears are flat topped. But what really makes this pen is the nib. So this is Pilot's Music nib. I did a full review on this pen. And that is a phenomenal amount of tipping material on there, and it's really well ground. I mean, beautiful, beautiful nib. And considering this is under 80 bucks, again, Amazon, I think I got it for under 70 in a nice eBay auction. I was extremely happy with it. And this also has the same ink that it's always been in it. Those of you that saw the review might recognize the ink. It's ancient copper. But again, this is just such a smooth nib and has a phenomenal amount of softness to it. You know, I've heard some of the other music nibs, like from Platinum and Sailor, are kind of on the stiff side, but this one is nowhere near stiff. And you get some nice line variation without really doing much with the nib, and that's what I think makes this a phenomenal pen. Not necessarily a daily writer, because it is lays down a lot of ink. Maybe not as much as the soft medium did, but I just love the way this thing writes and flows across the paper. I do a lot of letters with this nib. I'm very happy with it. And, you know, when I compare these pens, I mean, I really love the Pilot nibs and the Pilot pens. I think the Platinum pens are beautiful. I think those nibs are definitely very nice nibs, but not necessarily to my style. And now we're going to go on to some more pens. Rave about Sailor nibs, and I see no reason to doubt that they make a very consistent, very nice nib. This is an older 1911 that I got on eBay, you know, probably 60, 65 bucks or whatever. It only has one band here at the bottom of the cap, which kind of puts it in a certain date. You know, the standard 1911, this pen has been ubiquitous, has been reviewed quite a bit. The other thing that gives away its age is the nib. As we look at the other nibs, you'll see how they've changed them over time. And they label them on the left side of the nib. So this is an HB, which is a hard broad. I haven't found an S nib from Sailor. I've looked, I've searched, I gave up. So I kind of like the way this nib looks, but they did change it. So when you put this to paper, the first thing you notice is this is extremely smooth, smoother than any of the other nibs that I've looked at from the Platinum and Pilots. It glides across the paper, and it actually has it's fairly soft. You know, it's as soft as, certainly softer than the Platinum soft nib. And this is, you know, lives up to that reputation of Sailor's being an interesting nib and pen to work with. It fits nicely in the hand, it's good balance, it's light, it's probably 18 grams or 16. And I have in this Franklin Christoph Noir Blue, which is ink I got from the Philadelphia Pen Show. I could write with this forever. This was a daily writer in my batch for a period of time, and I really enjoyed it. Now we're going to take a look at a newer, not the latest model, but a newer version of the 1911. I got it because I like the color, and I also got it because it has a 21 karat nib. So I wanted a 21 karat nib, and I was able to get this for a good price. You can see on the side of the nib, hopefully that's coming out, this is a hard medium. You had to verify that. One of the things that when I first saw this nib, I didn't think the engraving was very crisp, and I still think that's the case, but I think it's maybe from the 21 karat because I've seen other Sailor nibs like that. So this is a hard medium. And one of the things that I noticed right away is this is not as soft as the more vintage nib was. And it's still very smooth, as you can hear. And it lays down a consistent batch of ink. All of the Sailors that I've ever used are consistent writers, day in and day out. They're workhorse pens. I think a lot of people have made note of that. So while we're talking about them, let's look at the differences between these two nibs, and I think that'll hopefully help give you guys a perspective on things. I mean, that's a significant difference in nib design, especially as from the, you know, the stamping, the engraving, the scroll work. I personally like the more simpler nib, and also with the anchor on it, the way it is, it represents, you know, the Sailor theme. Sailors, right? So this is another one we're going to take a look at. Again, this is a Pro Gear Sapporo. It's the slim model. the smaller version of the Pro Gear. This has the rhodium trim on it. I like the purple. It has a little bit of speckles in it, which is nice. It has a hard medium fine, it's called. You know, same type of stamping. This is a rhodium trim. You know, same black section, same piece of metal here between the section and the barrel. Same feed. You know, the feed has been consistent. So I got this one because I liked the pen and I wanted to try again a different nib. So this is a hard medium fine. And this is also extremely smooth. Not as smooth as the other ones. There is more feedback to this nib. Again, it's a little bit soft. You can squeeze a little bit out of it without too much pressure. J. Orban Poussiere di Lune, which I liked is a purple ink. And it's purple pen, purple ink. And I used to use this ink a lot, and then I moved on to some other inks. So all in all, from the Sailors so far, they're consistently smooth, consistently good writers, and definitely live up to their reputation. So now we're going to move on to the last pen in this group, and I have to admit I saved the best for last, well, depending upon what you determine to be best. So this is a Pro Gear, the full version of the Pro Gear. To go up from this, you go to the King of Pens. I did a review on this pen. Also, I'm pretty certain I did. You know, I did a lot of reviews. Can't remember all of them. Hopefully, you viewers do. So what makes this one unique is, again, its nib. And I bought this directly from the Japanese supplier in JK. And this one is a Nagataki Togi nib, and as you can see, an incredible amount of tipping material on there, interesting grind. It's kind of similar to a zoom nib in the grind. So this is certainly, and I won't spell it all out, but it's you get the idea. And I put in here the nice ink that I've gotten, which is the platinum pigmented sepia ink, because this lays down a lot of ink and it really shows off the and this is by far the smoothest nib. I mean, you feel nothing from the paper. There's no feedback or anything here. This lays down a phenomenal amount of ink. It's an extremely wet writer. But, you know, this is, I'm really happy that I got this pen. As you also see, as we should compare with the size of the nib, because this is a bigger nib that's on the regular 1911. You can see the size difference there. You know, maybe number 5, number 6, something like that. So again, in summary, what I'd like to say is all of these pens are great writers in their own way. I think you need to be aware of a pen, what you like to write with, and how you like to use your pens, and then determine what types of pens are available that might provide you with that. And all of these 3 Japanese manufacturers, I think, make extremely good quality. I've not been disappointed with any of them. I've done low-end pens before, and I may do some more low-end pens, but these I all kept as gold nibs, and obviously this is the most expensive one of the group, but the other ones were all under $100, and sometimes a lot less than that. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little review of a couple different nibs. And hopefully you'll find it your own, what you like, enjoy in nibs, and enjoy your writing. That's the most important thing. So until we meet again, have a great day. Enjoy your writing. Ciao.